Before we get into the mock draft, is there any, you know, early camp news, maybe preseason stuff that we should touch on? Uh, Travion Henderson is making headlines left and right. His draft stock is definitely jumping. Ramondre Stevenson is dealing with an undisclosed injury right now. Who knows what happens with Travion Henderson, but wouldn't be shocked if I grab him early in this mock, just to give you a heads up there, Cam. First two picks, Jamar Chase, Amon-Ra. Haven't seen Amon-Ra go at the 2 before. Maybe sleepers baking in some questionable injuries happening. Justin Jefferson with the hamstring lingering. I don't know. I've never really seen Amon-Ra go at the 2. That's intriguing. Jefferson falls to the 5. Barkley at the 4. I took Bijan at the 3. Best running back on the board in my eyes. I'm not, I would take Saquon, but I'd rather take Saquon in that, 6 to 7 range. Really wasn't debating anything else there at the 103, taking Bijan.
Yeah, I like where you're at. I'm sitting here at the 1-9. I am debating Derrick Henry and Malik Neighbors. I think I'm going to lean Neighbors here. Just the age of Henry scaring me a bit. Baltimore offense potentially having some regression. Going to roll with the young guy off the historic season. Coming here to the 2-4. I'm going to be leaning A-Chain. Now, this is a lot of soft tissue between these first two picks, but sometimes you got to take a bit of a risk.
If you just want to pause the draft real quick, I want to go through some of those picks. CMC got taken at the 201. In redraft, I'm willing to roll the dice on CMC earlier than the 201. So after Neighbors, it was Derrick Henry, Genty, Nico Collins, CMC, Brian Thomas, Bowers, A-Chain, London, Jacobs, Josh Allen, Bucky Irving, Lamar. So you see the QBs are making their run. I'm not going to get a QB here in round 2. I'm looking at the board. A.J. Brown, Ladd McConkey, Jonathan Taylor. Keenan Allen coming into L.A. this year with Ladd McConkey. Is it really going to scare me away that much? I bet against Saquon taking Bijan. I'm just going to bet against him again and that the Eagles have to maybe throw the ball a little more than they did last year. I'm going to take A.J. Brown here.
A.J. Brown at the 210 is a solid pick. We do have third-round reversal baked into this. This is a setting that you are starting to see become a little bit more popular. I do like the A.J. Brown pick there. Again, I do not love running back drop-off after really, honestly, Chase Brown here. So I'm going to go back to the well again on running back, and a guy I think is honestly undervalued still in Chase Brown with PPR upside and a great quarterback. A lot of mouths to feed there, but I'm liking Chase Brown here.
Yeah, I don't hate taking Chase Brown there. You got 2 pass-catching running backs in PPR attached to Neighbors. Maybe a little injury worry from Neighbors in the turf toe, and then A-Chain now with the soft tissue, but we'll see what really comes to that in the next couple of weeks. That's why we mock, So now I'm debating quarterback here, but I like to make, a little bit of a gamble here and see if Hurts or Daniels makes it back to me. So I'm going to take James Cook. Just got paid. That's the best running back on the board according to Sleeper. Receiver, we're looking at Marvin Harrison. And then there's a slight drop off to, Mike Evans, Terry McLaurin, Devontae Adams. I got a top RB. I'm kind of debating ditching RB here. Kind of a weird spot. I'm between James Cook and Omarion Hampton. Let me pick your brain on that. Would you go RB here, Cam?
I would. I would go back to the well just because I think the drop off after both Cook and Hampton is, we're getting into some treacherous waters potentially if you're leaning on this guy as an RB2, right? So I do love James Cook as the pick here.
Yeah, I know you love James Cook, but I'm going to go for the mass volume of Omari on Hampton. Some people won't like this, but I think he has a chance of finishing, maybe even ahead of Jetty um, at the end of next season. So both
Absolutely.
quarterbacks go. I knew that was a risk. Comes back to me. Maybe I'm shot myself in the foot a little bit there, not taking Hurts or Daniels. That's why you mock. He has some vet receivers. Like Evans, Deering, Warren. Not going Burrow here. I think there's value to be had in a one QB league later, so I'm gonna take the. I'm gonna take Kenneth Walker, man. Questionable pick, but I going for upside here. I think I'm gonna ditch RB for the rest of the draft.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. Might have lost you here for a moment. I'll give you a second to jump back in. Do I have you here, Justin?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay, cool, cool, beautiful. Can edit that out. Now, just real quick, we're gonna pause in between picks from time to time. I do just kind of want to break down where we are with our roster so far. Justin's first 4 picks are as follows, as you can see on the screen here. He's taken Bijan Robinson, AJ Brown, Omarion Hampton, and Kenneth Walker. That's 3 running backs, 1 wide receiver. I myself so far have Devon Achane, Chase Brown, and Malik Neighbors, 2 running backs and 1 wide receiver. I think we're kind of the same opinion here that this year is as important as maybe any of the most recent years in grabbing some of these running backs early, because the fall off is just nasty. We're in Chuba Hubbard, James Conner territory already here in the 4th.
Yeah, I figured I know I don't really like Kenneth Walker as much as my pick shows it, but with what was on the board, Mike Evans, Devontae Adams, Rashee Rice, Devontae Adams dealing with the Matthew Stafford back saga, which is kind of put a stink in the camp over there at the LA Rams. Mike Evans, sad to say, I've been betting against Mike Evans for the last 2 years. I got to stay true to the course. I can't waver on that, even though he's proved me wrong each and every single year. Rashee Rice dealing with the injury, I just didn't see value taking him in there in the 4th. I don't think sleepers baked in the suspension risk and everything that's looming this season. I think he's going to fall in your home leagues a lot later than the 4th round. Somewhere around that sixth round was where I'd be aiming to take a stab at Rashee Rice. Burrow went off at 4.8. Were you looking for a quarterback there at 4.9 with your next pick, or are you thinking
You know,
Sam
I
Laporta?
I consider, you know what? I considered the only reason I consider tight end here would be in a situation where a guy like McBride or perhaps a Kittle was falling. I think if you get one of those guys here, it is a massive positional advantage. But I think based on who's left on the board at tight end, I don't think on a week-to-week basis you're going to get enough points out of them to justify the pick. Um, that said, I do want to highlight the importance of what could have happened here had I not taken Brown and had I opted to take, I guess the next wide receiver would have been Garrett Wilson. Um, you'd be in a situation where your RB2 now is Chuba Hubbard, James Conner, David Montgomery, Joe Mixon, right? Versus having Chase Brown. Um, Again, we got to see how the season plays out, but it just speaks to kind of the market, I think, at this point in time. With that said, though, I'm leaning wide receiver. And for me, it's Terry McLaurin here. Don't really have any other player I'm considering. I still think 15 points a game out of Terry roughly is what I can grow to expect, and a step out of Jaden. So I think I'm gonna take Terry McLaurin here at the 4.9.
I don't hate Terry McLaurin there. Surprised he actually fell. I'm surprised, Mike Evans, Adams, and Rashee went before Terry McLaurin. I would prefer Terry McLaurin. I was debating Terry McLaurin there when I reached for Kenneth Walker, but I think Kenneth Walker has an upside that hasn't been reached yet. It's just whether or not he'll stay on the field. And with him being my RB3, I'm willing to take the risk of that. Back to
I
you at the
Yeah.
5-4. Mahomes off the board. I know you're thinking quarterback here.
I thought about it. I definitely thought about it, but I'm looking at the wide receivers, and honestly, a lot of these guys down all the way to Calvin Ridley, I would be just as comfortable plugging in my wide receiver 3 spot. Um, maybe Xavier Worthy would be kind of the guy for me that kind of tops this list, but everybody else, I think, at least for where I have them, are about roughly the same as fantasy players this year. That's just not the case though at running back. And so I am probably going back to the well here at running back. When you have a build like this, I think it's kind of important to ensure some of those pieces. In a case where a guy like Devon Achane with some soft tissue history, if he goes down, I could be in a sticky situation. So I am eyeing your guy Travion Henderson, actually.
It's a good range.
Um, I think it is too. And when you look at kind of who's on the board here, I think of these 6 players, he's got the most upside. I would maybe tilt Mixon had he not been experiencing the injuries that we've already heard. So I think knowing that and what we talked about with Ramondre Stevenson, I actually am going to be taking Travion Henderson here.
I like to pick there with Travion. In PPR, I just think the ceiling's high and the floor is enough for me to get behind the pick. With Ramondre now dealing with injuries, I mean, sky's the limit. So a couple receivers went off the board after that pick that kind of grinds my gears. I was praying George Pickens made it back to me as my wide receiver 2. Think he could have an absolute breakout season. And then Worthy doesn't make it back either, who I think is going to be viable, later down the stretch when Rashid does face that suspension. Could help. I think Xavier Worthy could help push teams into the playoffs and win playoffs in fantasy this year. If that Rashid suspension is 6 to 8 games later into the year, I mean, we're talking Worthy wide receiver 1 for the remainder of the year. Sam Laporta fell all the way to 5'8". Kind of puts me in a tough spot. I think throughout this mock I realized I don't really like the 103. Let's see. Sleeper, the board's telling me David Montgomery, TJ Hawkinson, Joe Mixon. I'm not taking any of those guys here. I got to get some receivers. Travis Hunter's staring me in the eyes, and I just can't do it. I'm going to take Tedero McMillan here. I think the floor is safer than Jameson Williams. I really would like to have Jameson Williams, but we'll see if he makes it back, and I'm more comfortable with him in my wide receiver 3 or flex range. So I'll take T-Mac here. I think he could break out. Oh, Jameson Williams right before my pick. Once again, get sniped. Told myself I was not going to draft any more RBs until later. So now I'm debating Travis Hunter. God, and Chris Olave. Are you kidding me? Are you joking me?
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Are you considering Cal? Because I think maybe it's just me. I think more people are warming up to this as we're seeing kind of the emergence of the talent of Cam Ward materialize. But are you considering Calvin Ridley here at all? Has he pinged your radar here as your wide receiver 3 at all?
He has. This is my thought process here is I have A.J. Brown and Tedero McMillan, who is a rookie. I do have Hampton, who is a rookie as well. I think taking Travis Hunter here makes me a little bit too exposed to this rookie hype. I don't hate taking Calvin Ridley. I've scrolled down and I'm looking at Odunze. And Odunze as my wide receiver 3, I don't mind. Ridley. This is a nasty zone over here. I would take Jordan Addison in a heartbeat if he wasn't suspended for 4 games. I'll tell you that. Mark Andrews is the best tight end. Yeah, I don't like that at all. All right, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with Rome Odunze.
I love the pick.
I think Rome Odunze is, prone. He's set up to break out this year. And I'm hopping on that bandwagon trade, and he's my wide receiver 3. As of right now, I got 3 running backs, 3 receivers. Don't hate it yet. Yet's the key word.
I think you've done a really good job of kind of getting some of these guys who probably like Odunze is a great example, is probably undervalued here at the 6'3". Um, Especially when you're looking at a guy like I think at least from a floor perspective, like I might like his floor honestly to Jamison Williams, just with the amount of weapons that they have over there in Detroit. Now obviously Chicago does have some as well, but a lot of draft capital. A guy in his second year. Historically, this is when you see the biggest steps. So a guy who could be a little bit flying under the radar. For me, at 6'9", just looking at my build, I do have 3 running backs that I'm comfortable with right now. I think I'm going to go with the guy I tried to talk you into drafting in Calvin Ridley. I just don't see a world where he, barring obviously no injury or anything unforeseen to Cam Ward as well, I just think Ridley's bound for 1,200 yards. I just think that's easy. They're gonna have someone's got to catch the ball over there, and after Calvin, none of these names are ringing a bell. So I'm gonna take Calvin Ridley comfortably here, um, and live with it. 7-3. Oh, sorry, 7-4. This is where it starts to get kind of ugly. Um,
This is a get your guys range. I
Absolutely.
feel like this is the start of the real draft where you're drafting people that could absolutely win you the league in this range. And fair to say about the last couple rounds, but I think this is that zone where you're scrolling down the sleeper rankings and you're just snagging the guy that you want the most.
Absolutely. And another thing that's interesting to consider is like every league's different. Um, it's all the like roster settings make a difference, right? Like if you're in a league where you have 3 wide receivers and 2 flex spots, depth is maybe more important. If there's 3 wide receivers and 1 flex spot, maybe you decide that, you would prefer taking ceiling plays rather than floor plays with guys on the bench. So it's interesting. That said, though, I do want to fill out my roster a little bit here. So I'm going to go and take a quarterback with some rushing upside and Bo Nix right at about ADP here at the 7-4. His rank is 73. Happy to take Bo Nix here. We could pause here and maybe before you make this pick, kind of break down our teams so far, what you like. Did you feel any picks you're not as excited about? I mean, where are you at with how you built out these first 6 rounds?
I'm looking back at that Kenneth Walker decision and the receivers that went after Kenneth Walker. Do I wish I took a stab at maybe a Mike Evans or a Devontae Adams? Maybe. I just don't like the way my receivers look right now. And in the inverse of Bijan and AJ Brown, I could have went Jefferson as the 3 at the 103 or CeeDee Lamb at the 103, and then my running back could have been Jonathan Taylor. Would I rather have Jonathan Taylor and Justin Jefferson or Bijan and AJ Brown? I think I did fine with Bijan and AJ Brown. It's redraft, so it's a crapshoot, man. Every year, you could draft the best guys and based off of ADP, in a redraft format, and then the season rolls around and some guys get hurt and some waiver wire guys become breakouts. I'm kind of taking a bet on upside here with McMillan and Odunze, and I think my season's kind of gonna fall to what happens with them. If T Mac is the number 1 receiver, 100+ targets, I think I'm fine. If Odunze finds the end zone, 8+ times, I'm definitely fine there. I'm looking at your team and I actually like what you've done there. I think the A-Chain pick, maybe the news has scared me a little bit with the A-Chain pick, but I love what you did after that. Chase Brown, I think he's poised for a breakout like the rest of the community has been speaking about. Terry McLaurin, I think he's staying a Commander. He's going to be attached to Jaden Daniels. You're fine there. Then my favorite pick, Travion Henderson, of course, as your running back 3. It doesn't really get better than that, I think, in the 5th round. And then Bo Nix sitting there at 7-4 has the upside of, being top 6 at QB. I genuinely think that.
Yeah, no, I the HN1 is one that you look back on and you either feel like a fool or you feel like a genius, right? Depending on how this all shakes out this year in terms of his availability. It's never good to have a guy with soft tissue injuries at running back before the season starts, but um, I'm seeing the breakaway speed. I'm seeing the way they utilize him in the pass game, and just who knows what's going to happen with Tyreek Hill. I could see him maybe even taking a step in the passing game. So who knows? Who knows? But we're here in the 7th round. I think you said it best. This is the get your guy zone. With that in mind, I mean, who's catching your eye here at the 7-10?
This is pretty much an auto click for me. I don't have a quarterback or a tight end. I was looking at Jacoby Myers for some depth. I think he's a great depth piece. If you got Jacoby Myers as, basically the first man off the bench, I think you're in a good spot. Stephon Diggs is here. I'm kind of hoping Jacoby or Stephon Diggs get back to me, but with this pick, I'm gonna take Kyler Murray, who has been hated on, man, doubted, forgotten about, whatever. It's fantasy football. The guy runs, all right. The guy puts up rushing yards, and the upside is there. Jacoby Myers goes off the board after, so I actually get my pick in Stephon Diggs. I'm gonna pause real quick. These Niner guys, can you give me your breakdown of how your brain works with these Niner receivers? Jennings, Pearsall, even Brandon Ayuk. I mean, is there a right answer?
It's so tough, man. I mean, you named the 3 wide receivers, and George Kittle might outpace all of them. So this is where this starts to get even harder, right? We start to think about Kittle and then McCaffrey coming back. And I think to myself, as I'm a Ricky Pearsall owner in a few leagues, I think to myself, well, how is this guy projected 10 points? There's just no way. And then I start to remember all the pieces on the team. It's tough, man. These guys are talented. If I had to rank one right now, I'd lean Pearsall just based on availability and injury of the other 2 pass catchers there. But I mean, where are you at?
I like Pearsall the most. Out of all of them, I tend to agree with you. Kittle probably is going to reap the most benefits. But I do like Pearsall there. I think he's going to have a good role, and he's going to be a nice outlet for Brock Purdy. Not huge on Ayuk. I don't think he's going to play, half the season. And with Jennings, it was a late career breakout. I don't really want to bet on that again. He looks good, but maybe a red zone throw. I think Ricky Pearsall is going to be the guy there, and I'm willing to make a bet on that. So I'll go Ricky Pearsall here was my next pick.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all, man. He has legit wide receiver one. I mean, he could be, he's projected 10 points in a lot of PPR leagues in his debut week 1 coming out, but I could easily see him being a 14, 15 point a game guy. I mean, that's 7 catches for 70 yards, and I think that could be cheese. We could be looking back like that's maybe one of the steals of the fantasy football.
Yeah, the Niners' schedule isn't that scary, and I can hear the argument for any of those receivers, whether it was Godwin, Stephon Diggs, Khalil Shakir, or maybe the rookies in Golden and Ibuka. I could understand going any route there with that pick, but I think with the Niners' offense and Kyle Shanahan, I should have a decent floor in Ricky Pearsall for at least the first half of the season.
I completely agree. Now I'm in an interesting spot. I'm considering going running back here again. I did glance at tight end, but I am feeling good about who I can get at the 9-4. Ooh, just with the availability of these players, I'm really interested in taking a running back here, but I actually tough area, man.
It's
Really
rough.
tough area to be
Rough.
in.
It's a get your guys type of area. I mean,
I might have to
I
pause the
don't
clock.
hate Colston Loveland right there for you. 8-9. He might make it back to you though.
I was thinking the same thing. I'm in a brutal spot because I've got 3 receivers. I'm starting to consider, with Neighbors, with Ridley, some of these guys who have had some, injury histories. I kind of want to get some support there. Jaden Reed is an interesting player here for me. Somebody that I maybe am higher than on market. It's kind of interesting. I'm seeing his projected points on sleepers actually less than Matthew Golden.
Is the walking boot not scaring you for Jaden Reed?
It is. It is, but
Because the walking boot in itself almost made me pick Matthew Golden there at 8-3, but I keep looking at my roster, filled in with I don't want to max out on rookies. All right. That just
right.
gives me a less of an opportunity to win the league in my eyes.
I think you bring up a great point. Um, the walking boot between those two players, like it should give Golden a bit of a boost, for sure. Gosh, yeah, I think you might have talked me into it. I think I'm leaning Golden here. I do need another wide receiver. So I think I'm gonna go Golden. I think I am.
Khalil Shakir,
I
fresh off
thought
the
about it.
contract.
I
Stephon
thought
Diggs
about it.
looking better than ever. I mean,
That's the look. Shakir is absolutely the floor play here. And there could be an argument made for my team that that's who I should take. But yeah, Reed, potential injury,
if if,
Golden,
if
big
I
play
if
guy.
I were you, you don't have to do this, but in your position, I would go Shakir and pray Emeka Ibuka makes it back at 9-4.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm gonna go Golden. I'm gonna take Golden. I don't even disagree with you. I thought about Godwin, and then trying to get Ibuka later, but alas, here we are. Oh, yeah. This is a
And
tough spot too. I would have loved
Diggs still
Jalen
on the
Warren.
board.
Tight end is probably the play here because I have an empty spot at tight end position. I would like to get a player who would be starting for me in this spot. I think that is value, based on where we are. And so with that hole in the roster, Colston Loveland. I mean, we saw the video of him singing R&B. All right, we saw him singing Mario Let Me Love You early on in the career. Guy's got energy. I feel like teammates like him. I like the upside. I'm going to take the upside pick here on Loveland. And you can always get a starting tight end, as we've talked about plenty of times, later on in these drafts,
Yeah.
further down the board. So,
If you want to just pause it real quick, Jalen Warren going off at 9-3, I think that's a value. If you went hero RB, let's say, both of us didn't do that in this mock draft. We hammered RB early, left the first 5 rounds with 3 RBs. I like Jalen Warren as a candidate to, fill an RB2 role on your roster if you went heavy receiver early in the draft. I think Jalen Warren's going to get a little more action than we are all expecting. You got to remember, Caleb Johnson was a 3rd-round pick. This wasn't like an early second or something like that. This was a 3rd-round pick, and he's got a lot of talent. He had a great career at Iowa, but I wouldn't say it's certain that he takes the backfield over, for the majority of his rookie season. I understand the tail end of his rookie season, he probably takes it over, but I wouldn't be shocked if Jalen Warren's on the field early. Here at the 9-10, Emeka Ibuka, I don't really got to look anywhere else. I mean, the drum beat couldn't be more positive for Emeka Ibuka, and the way my roster is built out, hell, at this point, one of these rookies has to hit. So I'm going to Emeka Ibuka here at the 9-10. I think that's a great value. Could win me the league towards the end of the season. After Emeka Ibuka, Javonte Williams, J.K. Dobbins, Downs, and Kincaid. That bunch of 4 guys, yeah, it's just I don't like those picks from the CPU, but neither here nor there. Back to me. I don't have a tight end, and I've been staring at 2 guys, Tucker Kraft and Kyle Pitts. And this was my plan a couple rounds ago when I punted tight end. And am I gonna, go back to the well and a guy in Kyle Pitts, or maybe a potential breakout in Tucker Kraft? Tucker Kraft looked good last year. And Jaden Reed's in a walking boot. Christian Watson's going to start the year on the PUP. We got a rookie in Golden, and then, Romeo Dobbs and Dontavian Wicks. I'm probably going to stab here at Tucker Kraft. And if Kyle Pitts breaks out and proves us all wrong, that's fine.
Yeah, that's I think that's a good point, man. And just one pick I'm looking at here that I think's kind of an interesting play at the 10-7. Now this is single quarterback, but Dak Prescott is interesting here. Um
Screaming value.
Screaming, I
Like,
mean,
that's the
absolutely.
biggest discount I've seen so far this draft. Dak
Absolutely.
Prescott going at 10-7 is I get it, but he is the CMC of quarterbacks.
Yes. And I
If
wouldn't do
he's
it with that team's build. I mean, that team has Herbert. That's a single quarterback league. That is probably a reach. Just based on his team, but based relative to market, I think it's a great pick. 10-7 could potentially be getting a guy who could be a top 5 QB. Just with the amount of weaponry around him this year. Uh,
10-9, how we feeling over there?
I'm gonna do something that probably is to some people like taboo or stupid, but I kind of want insurance on Travion Henderson. Um, Ramondre Stevenson, I feel like is a reasonable pick here. Now you again, you are kind of same position, same team. I get it. But in a world where something happens to Henderson, I think this is a reasonable play. Or if they're splitting, it's a reasonable play. And you got to look at who else is left on the board. Najee Harris, I'm not sure if he could see anymore. Haven't seen him out on the field. So, with that said, Ramondre Stevenson for me is going to be the pick. And in the 11-4, man, I'm going to
Oh,
go with my guy.
Keon Coleman did not make it back to you, and I know that Keon Coleman goes off the board at the 11-2. I got a feeling Cam was eyeing Keon Coleman making it back to him, and he did not. Where's your brain at, Cam?
You know, the guy that I would have taken in this range over Keon Coleman is actually still on the board, but you were absolutely right. I was eyeing Coleman a bit, but it's Rashid Shaheed for me here. Now, this is my guy. This is the
We
epitome of my guy. I've made questionable moves in other leagues for Rashid Shaheed. The Lisan Al Shaheed, as some refer to him as. But this is a guy who you got to remember, first 4 weeks of last year's season was producing great, obviously ended up getting injured. Um, I'm telling you guys, just don't be surprised if Chris Olave is the wide receiver 2 in New Orleans. I'm going to leave it at that. So, Rashid Shaheed, welcome to the team. We can pause here before you make this pick and kind of just run through the rosters one more time, kind of give a
Yep.
refresher of where we're at, where you think we need to go.
The
How do you feel about
Lisan
your
Al
race?
Shaheed in in the 11th round. That's You're gonna have to clip that take. That is very interesting about Chris Olave. Roster right now for me, I'm looking at Kyler Murray, Bijan Robinson, Omarion Hampton, AJ Brown, Tedero McMillan, Romo Dunze. And then at tight end, I got Tucker Craft in my flex, Kenneth Walker, 2 bench spots, Ricky Pearsall, Mecca Ibuka. Uh, I like the upside of my roster. The safety of and the floor of my roster is a little bit questionable, but with these kinds of guys, Romo Dunze, T Mac, Omarion Hampton, by like week 4 or 5, by week 4, you'll get a feel of what your outlook is. And I'm a trade happy guy, so I just want as many pieces as I can with value to potentially move it if need be.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting spot to be in right here, man. I like actually what you've done here in these last couple rounds with Buka, Pearsall, Craft. I think those are 3 really solid ceiling plays, and honestly, if one hits, it kind of covers for the rest of them. It's kind of how I'm looking at those picks there, and I think there's a reasonable chance that potentially 2, if not 3, end up at least achieving their ranking. So yeah, I like where you're going. Not too much to say about my squad right now. I like it. But you know, Colston Loveland, that's one pick where I'm now that's maybe a little bit of feeling like a reach for me. Um, I just feel like if I knew Kyle Pitts was, maybe potentially on the board there in a real situation, maybe I would have traded back and axed that pick. But um, you know, can't have it all. Where are you at here with the 11-10?
11-10, I don't usually do this in one QB leagues, but I'm debating tapping QB again. Um, Drake May and Fields are still on the board with tons of rushing upside. I feel safe for running back. I don't really want to touch running back. Receiver, nothing's really screaming at me. I think a quarterback's going to get taken before it comes back to me, and I would like to maybe hoard some value for potential trade reasons. So I'm debating Fields or Drake May. I think Drake May could break out, and that gives me a lot of value. So I'm gonna take Drake May here in the 11th.
I like that pick.
Gives me two rushing quarterbacks. Love goes off the board. Tank Bigsby, Marvin Mims. So in the 12th round, this is where I'm either trying to get an elite handcuff or a dart throw. And Luther Burden's on the board. I do have Odunze. A little bit of a hedge bet there. Debating between Luther Bird. I like Rashad Bateman, though. Bateman had a good year last year. They don't bring anyone, they don't bring anyone new into the receiving core except some late round picks. I'm kind of torn between Luther Burden and Rashad Bateman. I'm gonna go Keenan Allen here, actually. Call me crazy. Keenan Allen gets picked up by the LA Chargers, and don't be shocked if Keenan Allen's a top 36 guy. He did it last year in Chicago with terrible, offensive play calling and subpar QB play. So back home with like Justin Herbert, who knows what Keenan Allen's going to bring. I feel fine reaching for him there.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm with you. This is an interesting area for me. I'm in a position where I feel like I should take another tight end, just because we're hoping to hit on the upside of Loveland, but in an event where anything other than that happens, I feel like now would be a good time to have a guy that I at least feel comfortable about putting in the game and starting. But I don't know if the rank is going to call for it quite yet. So I think I'm looking Isaiah Likely at the 13-4 because I think he's going to be there. And right now, I mean, it might just be the upside play. I think I'm going to go Trevor Lawrence, man. Don't feel great about it, but the pass catchers that are over there, Liam Cohen being added to the play calling as the head coach, I think it lends itself to a leap in Trevor Lawrence's productivity. And I'd like to back up the mobile young quarterback who might run himself into some trouble if he doesn't get out of bounds on those scrambles. So Trevor Lawrence, I'm going to be adding here. And then at the 13-4, I am leaning Isaiah Likely, assuming he's still here, which it looks like he is. Now, what's your feedback on the two moves I just made, if you have any at all? I know we've been pretty split on Lawrence, so where are you at with that?
I like the idea that Lawrence can take a step forward. I think everyone is expecting it, and I think he needs to. I think for the outlook of his career, he needs to take a step forward this year. They bring in the number 2 pick overall and Travis Hunter and trade it up for him to help not only the team but the offense specifically. And then Liam Cohen comes in and it's wheels up. Everyone wants, to see the upside of why they drafted Trevor Lawrence. So I don't mind you taking a pick there. And I was looking at Likely when I reached for Keenan Allen. So I like the Likely pick too. I think, even though he has that surgery, it's only going to be maybe the first 2 weeks he misses. I think he's going to come back and be completely fine. That injury, that surgery isn't something that, has taken careers out or anything like that. So I like the Isaiah Likely pick. Back on the board here at 13-10. Well, now we're
Can I
deep
ask
into
you
the.
one thing? I hate to interrupt. This is just interesting to me. Are you noticing here that Dante Thornton is ranked ahead of Jack Beck in the wide receiver ranking? I mean, what do you make of that?
This is just that nasty receiver range. I mean, we're talking, Joshua Palmer's of the world. The only receiver I like down there is Demario Douglas. just because of the drum beat being so high on him. I did take Drake May. I'm not saying that that stack is gonna, move the needle for me, but I kind of like the Demario Douglas idea. Uh, I'm gonna go with a handcuff here. Just take a stab at a running back. Woody Marks is in a situation that's really interesting. I think he's gonna fall later. I can maybe get my hands on Woody Marks. I'm looking at Ray Davis here. They signed James Cook. This is an injury handcuff specifically, and I'm gonna go Ray Davis. I like the talent.
Some know him as Sugar Ray Davis. I mean, I don't mind that pick at all. I mean, he's shown some flashes in the preseason and last year when he started, he went crazy in a couple games. So I
No,
like
as long
that.
as he's on the field, he looks good. They just pay James Cook. I mean, I look at Ray Davis as a injury handcuff, but I think he's one of the better handcuffs in the league, compared to like a Braylon Allen, who, yeah, he's a great dynasty type of guy, but here in redraft, I'm not sure if Braylon Allen's going to move the needle for me, even if he, ends up, getting on the field more often than we think. Just the Jets' offense isn't as explosive compared to the Bills. Back on the board here, I'm going to go Demario Douglas. Um, just a slot merchant. I think he's going to, be decent in PPR. Um, could have a Wandale Robinson type of PPR merchant type year.
I agree. And I don't think it's like out of the realm of possibilities that like he could be just by happenstance the wide receiver one there. I'm not saying that it's likely, but again, it's basically Kyle Williams, Pop Douglas, and Steph Diggs, who's 31 coming off of a ACL injury. If you look at, if you look at that in a vacuum, you could make the argument to me that it's between Pop Douglas and Kyle Williams. So who knows what's going to happen? I think it's at this round, 14th round, to be able to pick a guy who has wide receiver 2 upside, maybe even wide receiver 1 upside, at least within his own offenses, is certainly worth doing. This,
After Demario Douglas, you see, Cedric Tillman. Some people are fans of him, and then the handcuffs come off. Jerome Ford, Tyler Algier, Braylon Allen. So I'm liking, taking Ray Davis there at 13-10. I think the better handcuff out of those guys. Bryce Young at 14-8. I'm looking at his roster, Team 8. Took Burrow in the 4th, came back and took Bryce Young in the 14th. Interesting. Bryce Young, that low on the board. What's your outlook on Bryce Young? Maybe not this year, just in general. Just what's the temp check on Bryce Young for you? Is it this year or nothing?
I see. I'm not in that camp at all. I feel like I've seen enough to think he's a competent quarterback in the NFL. He might be in a Kyler Murray type, um, let's say, boat, for lack of a better term, where it'd be great to see him push into the playoffs. Even if it's just wild card or competing for the NFC South, that'd be great to see. But I think it's established he can play. It's just, what level? And so the question becomes not, is he a starting quarterback in the NFL? The question might be, is he Carolina's guy? I think maybe that hinges a little bit more on this year. But I think if you're taking Bryce Young, perhaps in a dynasty format, I wouldn't be too worried. I look at him as a guy who's going to be in the NFL for quite some time and probably be a starter for quite some time as well. But how about yourself?
I think this year is going to show a lot. They keep surrounding him with more and more offensive talent. I mean, the tail end, like the last 8 games of last season, was phenomenal for Bryce Young. You saw him take a major step after getting benched. So I'm interested to see what this year looks like and what Dave Canales has got going on over there in Carolina.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, we're in just scary hours. I think I'm going to go and follow your lead here with the handcuff. And for me, it's going to be Jalen Wright. I took A-Chain. I took, Bobby. And I think with that soft tissue lingering, I think Jalen Wright's a good play. But with that said, I've been liking what I've been seeing at Ollie Gordon here in the preseason, man.
He had a couple good touches, a few good touches in that preseason game. Kind of reminds you of what Ollie Gordon was maybe in 2023.
People were talking about Ollie. I mean, started last year, I guarantee you, people would have been looking at Ollie Gordon, assuming he was going to be a first-round dynasty play.
No, definitely.
So
The Ollie Gordon hype train was major. Here at 15-4, I mean, odds are these last two spots on your roster are going to be interchangeable with waiver wire pickups and whatnot. So I like to, just take dart throws and hope somebody, breaks out before they're on the waiver wire and someone else can get them. What are you thinking here at 15-4?
I mean, I think you're absolutely right. God, I mean, it's just ugly. We're looking at just nothing. But with the age in that Tampa Bay wide receiver room, a guy that might be flying under the radar here, Jalen McMillan, man. I
Wow.
just I just think he's making plays left and right. Every time we see him, he's catching a touchdown. He's tough. He's durable. We don't know what's going on with Godwin. Mike Evans is 30, however. So I think Jalen McMillan at this point is a reasonable play. And to your point, we're throwing darts, right? 16th round, 15th round. So
After you go McMillan, Jacoby Krosky Merritt goes off the board. I was thinking about him at one point. Blake Corum, Roshan Johnson, Jack Best, Josh Palmer, the guy who I've been waiting on gets back to me. Malik Neighbors, nursing that turf toe. Those linger. We'll see how many games he ends up missing or if he gets surgery. I'll tell you one thing though, the Giants are in a position where they're gonna need, Malik Neighbors to stay on the field. So if signs are pointing that he is going to get surgery, I would not be shocked if that happens during the season. Wando Robinson is the only other competent receiver in that room. I know it's an ugly pick, but this guy is a PPR merchant, and if Malik Neighbors is off the field, he's technically going to be the wide receiver one for the New York Giants. So I'll take Wando Robinson here in the 15th round.
Wand Rob.
Back to me after Wandale, Will Shipley, another handcuff, Hopkins with his walker, and then Romeo Dobbs. He's basically the Packers' Darius Slayton, and then Justice Hill, who should have been Keaton Mitchell. I'm gonna go here in the 16th round, last pick of the draft. God, man, I guess who really cares, right? I'm going to take... I should probably take a tight end just in case we get like a little early breakout. I'm going to take Chig Okonkwo here.
I like Chig, man. Chig can play with Cam Ward, dude. You saw how he played
Yeah,
with
I mean,
Elijah Roy.
there's just not too much exciting receiving options there in Tennessee, so I kind of like taking Chig Okonkwo here.
And if you remember, one of Cam Ward's favorite targets at Miami was Elijah Arroyo. In the 16th round, you're just trying to sell yourself on anything, right? We get what it is, but I don't hate the pick, honestly. For me, I'm gonna go with, oh man, wow, I'm torn between Brashard Smith and Torrey Horton. God, I just feel like Brashard Smith's the obvious running back too in Kansas City.
No Jalen Royals. I was debating Jalen Royals just to hoard him on my roster until the Rashid suspension where, he goes up in the boards and maybe you get some trade value. Shit, maybe he breaks out. I was debating Jalen Royals there. Just to throw that out there.
No, I like where your mind's at. I don't even disagree. The only reason I'd give myself Horton maybe over Royals here is because I think for exactly what you just said, Royals, immediate value might be a little bit higher, but I think over the course of the season, Horton has a better chance, like as time goes on, to assume a larger role. So even if I don't hit early on with Horton, perhaps there's a chance, week 11, week 12, he starts to get a bigger role. Again, it's the 16th round, man. We're throwing shit at the board here. So I'm gonna take my guy, Torrey Horton. And I think now's a good time to kind of roll back through everything. It's your favorite pick on your team so far? Well, I mean, barring obviously Bijan, who'd you feel like you really knocked it out of the park with?
I really like the Ricky Pearsall at 9-10 and Emeka Ibuka at 11-10. I think those picks are more crucial to my roster. just having those guys to throw in the spots if there's injuries or maybe T Mac doesn't pan out as what we think, or Roma Dunze doesn't take the step. I feel great throwing those guys in that spot, and I feel great with the upside with those picks in the ninth and the 11th round. What about you? What's your favorite pick besides Travion Henderson at 5'4"?
I think for me it would be between Chase and Ridley, and I think I'm gonna lean Ridley. I really believe in Calvin this year. I think Calvin is a guy who, I get it. He's 30 in a dynasty format. He's probably a little undervalued for this season, and in a redraft format, I think he's falling a little bit later than at least I would take him. Cam Ward, man, I'm a big Cam Ward believer. As much as I love Calvin's game, a lot of this is just I'm seeing the hose of an arm that Cam Ward has and just thinking to myself, I just don't see this guy not throwing it into triple coverage. So
Mhm.
it could be some Jameis Williams type, Jameis Winston type of vibes over there where, yeah, maybe it is 30 touchdowns and 20 interceptions, but Calvin really might very well have 12 to 15 of those touchdowns. So
Right, fair enough. I mean, he's definitely the number one pass catcher in that offense, and he's probably going to be the first. He's probably going to lead the league in first reads. So I like to pick at Calvin Ridley. I'm kind of regretting going. I wanted Travis Hunter on my roster, and I had the opportunity for that to happen, but the issue was I went Tedero McMillan.
mm,
And I didn't like the idea of having T Mac and Hunter on the same team with Hampton. George Pickens went off the board at 5'6". I love George Pickens this year. I just didn't have an opportunity to take him in this mock specifically, but I would take George Pickens right after Cortland Sutton. I take George Pickens over Zay Flowers. I think he could be top 12 receiver. This is the best offense George Pickens has ever been in, and hands down the best quarterback by far. If Dak plays 15, 17 games, you might be looking at 2 top 12 receivers there in Dallas.
I think you're right, man. George Pickens is a guy who's I think it's tough because he's getting that, you're in the same offense as CD. It's like the Addison thing. His talent level's higher than where, his ranking is. So for that reason alone, I never gonna hear an argument out of me against taking Pickens. Were you thinking Dak at all? Like late, maybe get a stack going, or that ever cross your mind?
Going into the mock, I was thinking that Pickens would fall to me at 5'10", and I'd be fine, and then I'd probably go Dak later. That didn't happen, and then Kyler Murray was on the board in the late 7th, and I'm taking Kyler there all day if I don't have a QB yet. I just think the rushing upside's always there with Kyler Murray.
Yeah,
Bo
I agree.
Nix and Trevor Lawrence being your starting quarterbacks are you? I like Bo Nix. How are you feeling about that Golden Loveland back-to-back pick?
It's tough, man. I think I played a version of the game you were playing, I think, and I think you played it much better than I did. But once you get there again, it's just like if I can hit on one of these rookies, that's such an advantage, especially in these redrafts, right? Because it becomes a little bit more similar to best ball in that when you're picking in those ranges, it's really about like picking guys that you're higher than on market, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's really what's going to set you apart. Picking guys at ADP in that range there's always an argument because depth is important. But the way these rosters were laid out, I felt comfortable kind of trying to take a bigger swing there and hoping I maybe find a little bit of a mismatch in pricing relative to where I think he is. So that's kind of the rationale behind Golden and Loveland. But it gets hairy. It gets hairy,
That's why
man.
we mock. That's why we mock.
I think you did a pretty good job, man. It's like it's tough picking at the 1-3 with the reversal.
Redraft's so ugly, man.
Yeah, it really is, bro. We picked reasonably closely. You're projected 105.73. I'm projected 106.53.
Got you. That concludes our mock draft with First Ballot. I'm Justin, with my co-host Cameron, and please like, subscribe. We got the website going right now, firstballotffb.com. We're on TikTok. YouTube, Instagram, X, wherever you like your social media takes. There, we're all over the place. So go ahead, like, subscribe, comment, tell us where we went wrong, tell us where we went right. We love the discourse. Thank you for watching.